We are back for our Friday edition, our first show of the day on a Sideline Sit Down. Kevin Naro, joined by our very own Billy Watson, and a special guest with us coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico, former Channel 5 sports reporter Brandon Ortega, joining the show. Our honorary member of the 956 Media Mafia. Brandon, what's going on, man? How you been?
Nothing much. I actually just got done with yard work about 10 minutes ago. I was like watching the clock every other minute. We were doing it for about 45 minutes. The old lady made me rearrange some stuff in the front, and it's good to be on with you guys. Even ran upstairs to get a clean shirt, a nice Valley shirt to chat with my old Valley fan, man. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Brandon rocking the UTRGV basketball shirt. So, Brandon, what have you been up to, as far as sports goes and New Mexico, as far as your job goes? Are you all still anchoring, or how is that working for you guys? How's y'all station handling it?
So the first thing we had to do is we have two sports guys, similar to like when me and Joel were on our own before Ruben came in, and other third people we had. We had to basically split our shifts where we weren't working together anymore, because there's just not enough for two people working on the same day, to make it worthwhile. So that was the first thing we had to do, is kind of arrange our shifts differently. So now I have like 1 week where I work all 5 days, and then the next week I'll only work 2, and then I'll get an extended weekend while the other guy works on his own. His name's Lee Faria, awesome guy. And then, like everyone else, we had to just adjust how we were covering things, because there's not many occasions where you can go in person to go interview anyone, like you guys, doing everything on Zoom and FaceTime and whatnot. So that was another adjustment. And to be honest, it's not that hard to get sports coverage going, because all you got to do is just find someone in the sports world out here in New Mexico that's got a story, and everyone's got a story. You know what I mean? Whether it be someone that just signed to go play somewhere in college, or someone that's doing something positive in the community. And there's a lot of that going on, not just in New Mexico, all over the world. So yeah, we just had to adjust and tweak things. And then I guess the last phase of it is I've been doing a lot of stuff right here where I'm sitting in my garage. I've set up my little man cave, my brand cave, as I like to call it, with some nice equipment from work. And I've essentially done a big majority of my sportscasts in here. Not many live. We've just been pre-recording them to make it easier. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I have more time to spend with my 2-year-old son, being at home, working at home. So that's been awesome. I take him to school and pick him up almost every day. So that's cool. So yeah, I mean, you had to definitely adjust in a lot of ways. But the important thing was we figured out a way to keep the sports coverage going. You know what I mean? Just like you guys have. And I think it's awesome you guys are doing what you're doing every, few weeks with all these interviews all over the Valley. I've been watching them all the way out here in New Mexico, so it's been great to watch.
Sweet. I know you're an active musician with your drums. I see you on Instagram. You're playing drums or your guitar. Any other hobbies you might have picked up on, or do you just continue to jam?
It's just music. Yeah, I mean, I love playing sports, but I can't get out and play basketball with anybody right now. Sometimes I'll get out. Actually, we're planning on playing tennis today with some coworkers, and that's a good social distancing sport because you got the net in between you and you're far away from each other. Disc golf, I actually started playing a little bit this week, and I love it. I forgot how much I love it. I used to play it back in Abilene from like 2012, 2014 when I was in Abilene. That's an awesome sport that I never even really got to try out in the Valley too much. I didn't really hear about too many disc golf courses nearby where I was living. So yeah, disc golf, but the main thing is music. I don't know if you can see my drums right behind me. I got a guitar rack right here. I had a band while I was in the Valley with my buddy Marcos Munoz. We were called Valley to Cali because I'm from California and he was from the Valley. So we used to write a lot of songs together. The only place we really performed was the Prelude out in Harlingen. I don't know if you ever stopped by that spot. That was a really, really neat musical hub in the Valley. So yeah, definitely music for the most part, but it's hard to squeeze that in when you got a 2-year-old. So I'm actually trying to get him into music already. He's already been wailing on my drums this morning. So definitely music above all.
Definitely. Billy, any questions?
Yeah, Brandon, I was just gonna mention, last time we actually saw each other was the time we had our little interview about my school project. I just wanted to say, back then I was just starting out, and then I think from then on, I think you gave me kind of like the confidence, just to come out and like start getting into the sports world, and I think that's when I got into Joe Bowling's world, and then that's kind of where I've gotten from here. So I want to thank you for that while I have this time, dude. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, I was honored that you even thought of me to come into the studio. We had you come in. I remember you came to the KRGB studios and showed you the sports office. And I remember we sat down and did the interview in the studio, which was
awesome because I was
a lot of fun, dude. Yeah, and I kind of threw you into the fire a little bit. Yeah, and I remember you being just like really interested, but not necessarily having that confidence. And I'm glad to see everything you've been doing with Eurosports Live. And are you still at Tech?
Yep, I have a semester left. Yeah.
A semester left. Wow. Yeah, I remember you weren't that far in back when we were hanging out at the studio. Yeah, man, it's my honor also, to be a part of your journey, man. That's the thing about our line of work. When I was your age, I had a handful of guys that were in the business already that were giving me advice and, help me find my way. And man, it's great. It's great to see you doing everything you're doing, and you're just going to keep doing more and more, man. Just keep it up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's definitely come a long way. I think I met him that same summer. I met Billy that same summer.
Yep.
And it just started with a couple signings. Billy, that he would carpool with me to some signings, and then he put some packages together. And one thing I told him, I said, "You're already ahead of me when it came to the video editing and shooting stuff, because it took me years to learn that, and Billy kind of picked up on it.
Yeah,
after a couple weeks.
Very quick learner for sure.
Yeah, and then the big test came when our first trip to 7-on-7.
I miss 7-on-7 in Texas, man. What a fun event that is.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun. Covering the Harlingen and McAllen leagues, and then going to the state qualifiers, and then of course when you have the Valley teams make all the trip to College Station. So it's about it's a 3-day event. And I remember Billy was just kind of like, "Man, so what do we expect? What do we do? Or what's it going to be like?" And I'm like, "Well, first off, it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot.
Yeah, so, right.
You don't want to dress too down, but dress some nice basketball shorts, an Under Armour, a cap, something to protect you because it's going to be super hot." And then I just remember saying that it's just going to be so many games in a matter of 3 days, and you're at field 2, and then you got to make it to field 8. In 20 minutes, and you got to go across the whole field. But yeah, no, Billy, I mean, that first summer at 7-on-7, he took it on and learned a lot of things. He had a couple of good moments.
Awesome.
He did a couple stand-ups and stuff like that.
That's a good test for not only any journalist, but a young journalist, because of the heat. I mean, there are so many games going on all at once, and you have to just focus your attention on one thing at a time. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first one I ever went on. I went by myself each of the times. I think I did it at least 2 times, if not 3 times. Mm-hmm. And God, it was so fun. But yeah, it's a lot. Even if you're someone that's been in the business for a bit. I've been in the business for about 5 years at that point, and I was a little daunted walking in, like, oh my gosh, this is so much football for one, eye's view. Yeah. And I always remember. Usually it lined up with my birthday those years. So I would celebrate my birthday out there a couple of times at what is it called? The downtown College Station area. What do they call that?
Northgate.
Yeah. Yeah. Little too much fun at Northgate. Definitely one of the highlights of my Valley career was getting to go on 7-on-7 and seeing the Valley teams, go head to head with some of the best teams, best athletes in the entire state of Texas. It was a really neat deal.
Yeah, not only that, but another thing that I saw that Billy learned was just learning how to think on the fly. Have the intuition to, if one thing didn't work out, go on to the next one, and just
that's our job. Yeah, a lot of our jobs is figuring out problems.
Yeah, and right there on the fly. And I think by the end of the tournament, Billy, I know he came out a little sunburned. But definitely learned a lot. So no, it's been fun. And then, I spent the last almost 3 years at the Star, and I just recently hopped on Real Sports Live with Billy and Joe. So it was, really sort of big. We all were reunited basically. But just shifting gears a little bit, Brandon, and obviously you saw the news last Friday as far as the state of Texas goes with the UIL officially canceling the rest of spring sports. The word here in the Valley with coaches was, a lot of coaches felt that that was the right move and knew it was coming. But at the same time, UIL drew up a couple of scenarios that this could happen. And then May 4th was that magic date. And a lot of coaches, they felt that, yes, this might happen, it could happen, but most likely it won't. So when it officially happened, it was, just surreal for everyone to kind of just take it in. But what was the feel out there in New Mexico? How were coaches feeling? And, was there a lot of optimism or what was that like for you guys?
See, we were one of the few states, I don't know how many states got them in, but we were one of the few states in the country that actually got to finish the state basketball tournament. Did Texas get to do that?
We did not finish. They finished.
Yeah,
it paused at the 3A. Yeah, they still had the 4, 5, and 6 to go.
Right. Yeah, I think they had 2 or 3 more days left to go. And for sure 2 days left to go when COVID hit, everybody, and all the drastic changes were happening, especially with social distancing and a certain amount of people being allowed to be in one building. So the NMAA out here is what their big association is. It's the same equivalent as UIL in Texas. They acted pretty quickly on it and said, look, we're going to finish the tournament, but there's no fans. So that was just the big adjustment. They didn't even allow media that first day. They barely allowed media in. I think it was the championship Saturday. And yeah, it was crazy because fans, were obviously really disappointed. I got a little notification. Fans were really disappointed to not be able to see their kids, their relatives, compete for basketball out here, high school basketball, I think it's safe to say is the biggest high school sport out here, arguably one of the biggest sports in general in New Mexico. People look forward to that tournament all year round. They come from all over the state, much like in Texas, everyone goes to San Antonio or Austin back in the day. It was a big uproar, but eventually it took a little bit of time and people got used to it, and they just had to watch the live streams of the games. Thankfully, technology in today, we have the capability of doing things like that. And then eventually the media outlets were able to provide some more coverage on that Saturday for folks. Yeah, so people were mad even though the sport was still able to finish that state tournament. And then after that, it didn't take long for them to cancel spring sports. But see, that was a month ago. We've been a month ahead of where Texas is. So it feels like forever since we haven't had a sporting event to cover, and we knew that we weren't going to have any. Like they made the decision pretty quickly. Texas, for whatever reason, held on to some hope and tried to come up with a scenario maybe that it could work. But the longer we've been in this, it's been very apparent that no sports were going to happen. I mean, look at all the major league sports that canceled everything and haven't even discussed very much in detail what could happen when the sports do return. Like Major League Baseball is really the only one that I've heard of even making scenarios public. It's too tricky. It's too serious of a situation right now for us to get too realistic about live sporting events in the very near future. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, New Mexico's definitely been about a month ahead as far as the high school sports go. Everything's been closed down for a while, and it's unfortunate, but it is necessary for what's going on right now.
I know one thing that Texas was hoping for as far as UIL goes was they were hoping that Governor Abbott was going to lift the in-home shelter by the end of the month, and they were hoping if that would have been the case, then we would have had sports still in play. But a lot of baseball and softball coaches that I talked to were hoping for that case, but we're also expecting for there to be no fans. And they were totally okay with that, just to kind of get the sport going. Because
they would be better than nothing, right?
Right. And in some cases, with softball, some districts had already started, some districts were about to start. That last Friday, March 13th, we were at our last softball game. Some teams were about to start their district play until everything got put on pause. So it was kind of a weird spot. So they said if they do come back, do you just play one round of district or do you just create a district tournament? So, they had some plans in place, and then obviously for down here, girls soccer playoffs was about to get underway.
Wow.
Boys soccer was about a week away from the playoffs. So everything, just really got put on pause. But there was a lot of optimism here. But at the same time, a lot of people were kind of just expecting the more we saw, like you said, the professional sports, that they have the resources to make something like this crazy happen as far as figuring out a crazy schedule and making it work. If they're struggling to put that together, let alone for high school athletes to put a season together and go out there and play. So, but yeah, we're still kind of reeling from it. It's been a week, I believe a week already since we found out that the season got officially canceled. But again, all for the right reasons. But Brandon, for you, did you feel that the NBA, when they first put the season on pause, that was the first major domino effect as far as the sports world goes?
Yeah, because Rudy Gobert was the first positive test. And yeah, it was just a domino effect after that. I can't remember in what order. I feel like there was one day where it was like one sport was canceled, the other sport was canceled. It was like I remember there was one day where everything was coming to a close. Yeah, Rudy Gobert was that first one, though. It's unfortunate. He's going to go down in history as the first professional athlete to test positive. However, he may have contracted it. It's very unfortunate. But at the same time, him becoming the first athlete, it's protected everyone else from getting it because they shut everything down. So, yeah, what a whirlwind that must have been for him and for the Utah Jazz to get all that. At first it was negative attention, and people were upset about it. But since then, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people have gotten it, and not necessarily doing anything out of the ordinary. It's just one of those things. It's happening all over the place to so many people that are just defenseless against this insane virus. And knock on wood, my household, we did have someone did get tested in my house, so we had to quarantine because they were tested, but it was a negative test, so that was good. Luckily in my household, haven't had too much happen to us, but you still have to be safe because you never know.
Billy, any questions?
No, I was just gonna add on that. I think I know the exact date because it was my birthday when this whole thing started. Wow. Yeah, so the next day, that was when we were supposed to cover Tech in the Big 12 opener, and then the night before was when all the games started getting canceled, and I was having a drink with my friends, and they're like, "Oh, look what's going on," and they're like, "Oh man, this is not gonna be good." And then, like you said, domino effect went on. Friday happened. NCAA tournaments just go here and there, and yeah. So there's the exact date right there. In case
crazy. Yeah. What a wild last few weeks, last month it's been for us.
Definitely. What were your thoughts on the NFL draft? We'll start on the media side from our point of view. Seeing a virtual draft, and I thought, it's funny how we look at it as media people, like, man, all the work that goes on behind it. And,
we can appreciate that, right?
Yeah. So I'm just like, man, I was telling my parents that, I'm like, a lot of work went into this, and I thought they pulled it off pretty smoothly.
Yeah, I thought so too. When I watch a television production, I know that there's someone behind the camera doing something. I know that there's a broadcast truck somewhere, satellite somewhere, working together. There's a big crew that you don't see in front of the camera that's putting in so much work to make that happen. And yeah, I thought they did as good as they could with the deal that they were handed. I thought it was neat that they tried to implement fans. I think it was a Zoom chat that they implemented fans from each team for each pick. I liked that. They probably could have brought the sound in a little more. You could have heard them a little better, just being nitpicky. Yeah, what else can you say? It was a valiant effort yesterday, and they're gonna keep it up today, right? Today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I thought it was as good as it could be. and at least we have something to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Well, here at my house, we made a day of it.
Cool.
I was wearing Cowboys, and I'm like, let's have a nice, let's make a fish fry. Let's all hang out and
Nice.
watch the whole first round. But so what were your thoughts, on the NFL draft as far as the football goes, and
Yeah.
maybe any surprises? Or I know you're a Raiders fan, so
Yeah, they went receiver. Okay, so starting at the top, Burrow was the automatic. Everyone and their mother assumed there was like a 99.9% chance that was going to happen. That wasn't a big surprise. The next few picks weren't a big surprise. I think it was by the time we got to the Dolphins that things were getting a bit interesting. I'm a big Tua fan, Tua Tagovailoa. I was glad to see him land there because if not for his injury, he may have been the first pick overall. So it was good to see him not slip too much. And then after that, Justin Herbert. I know a good amount of Chargers fans being from Los Angeles. Even when they were in San Diego, I knew a ton of fans. Most that I talked to wanted Simmons, who ended up going to the Cardinals, I think, from Clemson.
Mhm.
The kind of do-it-all defensive player. Herbert's a heck of a talent, so we'll see if they just throw him into the fire right away in his first year, or if he sits and learns from Tyrod Taylor for a little bit with the Chargers. And then I guess the next one that stood out would be, me being a Raider fan, I think a lot of folks thought they would go receiver, but I think they were surprised with the receivers that they went with. This is such a deep receiver class with Lamb, who went to the Cowboys, and Judy, the Alabama receiver. He ended up going to the Broncos, right? A couple of picks after the Raiders.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Being a Raider fan, I thought they had a really good draft last year. And so I've got faith in Mike Mayock, the GM, and John Gruden, the head coach, that they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing with Ruggs. He's certainly got the speed, and he's got the playmaking ability, but that doesn't – just because you did that in college doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do it in the NFL. So, and everyone's in the same boat right now with getting these draft prospects ready for the NFL that will be drafted, because you can't even get the team together right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this draft class does compared to any other draft class before it, because they're being dealt a tough hand right now with not being able to be with their team.
Yeah, when you mentioned speed, I was like, the Raiders, that's all they draft, and you being a Raiders fan, you know that. That's all they go with is speed. Guys like, in the past, Darius Hayward-Bay and all those guys. I know Billy had a Texas Tech. He was pretty excited to see a Red Raider that got taken off the board late in that first round.
Yeah, who was that, Billy?
That was Jordan Brooks. The Seahawks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He's got a lot of buzz. Yeah, there's a lot of folks excited about him for sure.
Yeah, they were comparing. There was a show earlier in the week in the radio station in Lubbock that they were comparing him to Bobby Wagner. Because the head coach at Texas Tech had coached him at Utah State his senior year, and then he came to Texas Tech and coached Jordan Brooks his senior year. So there's kind of like a different, kind of a similar story between the two linebackers. So I think that's pretty cool. And then Brooks getting drafted, and then they're going to play on the same team. I think that was pretty awesome too.
Yes, the Seahawks have some young talent that I feel like the last two draft classes, there's been some injuries on the Seahawks that we haven't even got to see all of their prospects be on the field. There were some season-ending injuries that affected the Seahawks defense. I think they're going to be interesting this year for sure. I think that defense could be pretty good. So we'll see.
I like the Cowboys taking Lamb. I wanted them to get Judy. And just before we came on, Billy had asked me what kind of stood out in that first round, and I think it was just the fact that both Judy and Lamb dropped so low.
Yeah, I wonder why. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because
I think you can make the case that Lamb was potentially the steal.
Yeah. He's getting comparisons to Dez Bryant, and anytime you're compared to Dez Bryant as a player, that says a lot. And he just so happened to end up on the Cowboys. So we'll see.
And see, before I was speaking of Dez Bryant, I was okay with him maybe coming back and taking on a 3 role, just playing the slot and kind of take on that Jason Witten role that not a lot of balls are going to go your way. But now that the Cowboys drafted Lamb, I think you can just eliminate the whole Dez Bryant deal. I don't think they will sign him at all, because I know that was a lot of the chatter. But A guy like Lamb who can play inside and outside. I think he's going to add he's going to open up that offense a lot more. Because now you have Michael Gallup, who had a good year this past year, and then you have Amari Cooper. So I think their offense has got a whole lot deeper.
Right.
The funny thing is that in a group chat with my uncles is we were all hoping DB or safety, but the Cowboys just went with the best player available, and I think that's what's been working.
They were probably surprised he was still around.
Yeah, and what I was reading this morning was that Lamb was their number 1 rated receiver. So, but yeah, like you said, they probably didn't expect him to drop to 17. So he kind of just fell into their lap, and it's like, okay, well, let's take this guy. He's the best player available. But they've done that in the past. I remember when they drafted Travis Frederick, everyone was like, who's Travis Frederick? Why not?
Right.
What? It's not the sexy pick or whatever. And then the same thing happened when Manziel was in the draft, when I was praying that they would not take Manziel, but they took Zach Martin instead.
Zach Martin, I remember that. Yeah.
So,
remember that.
But, so the Cowboys, they Will McClay, the guy who's in charge of the player personnel, I think he's done a tremendous job, and they've hit on all these draft picks these last couple of years, with Elliott, Leighton Vander Esch, Byron
Vander Esch is a monster. Yeah, they really hit with him when a lot of folks were criticizing that pick.
Right. Yeah.
I remember there was some criticism to that pick coming from Boise State. Someone that not a lot of people watched on the national stage, because Boise doesn't get on these big national games too much.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys have drafted well the last few years. You got to tip your hat for sure.
So and then we talked with Shea Patterson a couple of days ago.
I saw that. What a drop off having me on after Shea Patterson. Wow.
Oh, please.
I thought that was great. You guys got him. Yeah. What a good get.
Yeah, so he's we're just waiting for his name to be called, and he just talked about the draft class that he was in, and it got me thinking, because I asked him about guys like Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert, was that he was familiar with all those names, not because of the combine and the draft, but those are just names he had heard growing up. And
those guys have been on the blue chip radar for a while. Right. Yeah. From Shea to Burrow to even Tua was one of the highly touted players out of Hawaii in history. They've had some great players come out of Hawaii, but I think he was hyped up as the best recruit to ever come out of Hawaii. And look, now he's the top 5 pick.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought that was really interesting, because we don't hear names like Joe Burrow until they get recruited to their college. Or maybe it'll take a year or two for, obviously 2 years ago, we didn't know who Joe Burrow was. And a lot of people might not know.
At least the average fan didn't, right? Yeah.
Yeah, at least the average fan. I'm sure the college nut probably knew of Shea Patterson before he went to Ole Miss, and then when he transferred to Michigan. So, but talking about football, Brandon, as far as New Mexico goes, do you feel that we're on a good pace on maybe starting high school football on time? Because I know here there's a little bit of uncertainty. The rumor mill is that, we've heard that we won't start till October. We won't start till September. So where do you feel that the state of New Mexico is at when it comes to high school football?
So the state of New Mexico has some optimism, because the governor came out a couple of days ago and announced that the curve was starting to be encouraging, maybe not necessarily flattened, but it's moving in that direction. So they did extend the stay-at-home order to May 15th, which from now is 3 weeks away or so. And so I think the plan right now for New Mexico is businesses are going to be phased in. There's a plan in place to phase in businesses starting in mid-May. Now, does that mean we're going to be on pace to get school started on time? There's no one really knows, as high up as the White House, they think they know, but it's changing every day. So can I sit here and say that people think school's going to start on time? I think the answer is no, not yet. Hey, babe, you all good? There's Rebecca. Can you see Rebecca? Yeah, no one really knows. They're hopeful, but at least as far as life itself getting a little closer to normal, businesses have been told there's phases, a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Some businesses are going to start to be reopened, but still under social distancing guidelines. it's just too early to tell if school's going to get to start on time, and certainly if sports are going to start on time. But having said that, I have been seeing just on social media alone, and then talking to coaches, reaching out to them over the phone, everyone is working right now as if they're going to get to go back, on the day that fall camps could start, because they want to be ready if they do get the opportunity. So you see on social media, everyone's doing home workouts, everyone's, throwing passes to their sister, doing what they can to get ready. So yeah, it's totally up in the air, but people are working towards that for sure.
What's the start date in high school football in New Mexico?
It's very close to Texas for like 2-a-days. It's what we all call it. It's like the first week of August.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the first week of August for sure. It's usually when it is, if not the second week of August. The schedule out here is a bit different because the state tournament is only it's only 4 rounds, where the state tournament for Texas is a bit longer. Wow. So they're going to finish earlier if they get to start on time anyway. But yeah, everyone is hopeful. So everyone's putting in the work right now that they could potentially come back, but it remains to be seen. No one really knows.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, here we're seeing coaches really be active on social media with workouts and sending out workouts. And a lot of these kids, you're seeing them work out. And I know coaches, they use Zoom to have meetings with their athletes. They have this thing called Chalk Talk or Chalk Wars, where the coaches will get on and they'll just swap, strategies and different, schemes like
cool.
that. Yeah, no, it's
really
pretty neat. And I think the interesting thing here is that, spring ball got canceled. And you've covered plenty of Valley football, that a lot of coaches base their off season on that spring ball to get that head start coming into the football season. So that's another hurdle that the coaches have to overcome. And not only that, but obviously we're all going to be starting on that same date whenever it may be. So
right. I
think at the end of the day, everyone's going to be in the same boat. But for coaches who like to run the spring ball, unfortunately for them, that got canceled.
Yeah, the thing is, as many teams and coaches that do plan on having spring, there's also a huge amount that don't do spring ball, so they can start a week earlier in the fall. So if you weren't doing that before, then you're just adapting to that. And I don't think it's going to take too much to adapt to starting a week earlier if they do get the opportunity. And then if you didn't do spring, then it doesn't really make a difference. You're keeping your kids in the weight room anyway, and you're making them do their own off-season regiments anyway. So losing spring ball, I don't think, at least on the high school level, I don't think it hurts them as much. I think where it hurts people more is the college and the pro level. That's where, we're going to see a big effect whenever we do get to see games again. There's going to be more rustiness than we've ever seen, because just no one's on the field. People can hardly even, like quarterbacks and receivers can hardly even get together. That's happening in some doses here and there, and I think that's appropriate because this still can keep social distance if it's just a very small amount of people. But yeah, I mean, college and pro for sure, it's a big setback for them to not be able to do stuff like that. But they're gonna have to figure it out. They're all professional athletes, so they're gonna be tested in ways they've never been tested before.
Yeah, and talking about the NFL draft, I think one thing that the NFL has right now in favor that these other sports don't is time. So hopefully in a couple months, everything will die down, and we'll flatten the curve, and where teams can actually maybe go to OTAs, and then hopefully start on time. I know Roger Goodell was planning on them to start on time, but let's talk a little bit about Major League Baseball and your neighboring state, Arizona and Florida. Those two are the you're talking about baseball being the only major sport talking about a potential plan. You're a baseball guy. What were you thinking on the potential idea of having both Florida and Arizona as basically host states, and baseball implementing the minor league system where you'd have the grapefruit and the cactus league, and you just get this whole funky system where you'd have double headers, 7 innings each, players sitting in the stands, practicing social distancing, not having umpires. I mean, what were your thoughts on that potential idea from baseball?
I mean, I have 2 thoughts. The first thought is, if that's what it takes to have games happen, I suppose I like it, but there's been players that have come out. I think Clayton Kershaw is one of them that doesn't like the idea of, I guess part of the equation would be that families wouldn't be able to be with the players. And like right now, yes, it's a difficult time that we're all quarantined, but at least we're able to be with our families. And if Major League Baseball isn't going to allow like one player to have his wife and like 2 kids with him, then I don't like it. I think that they should at least be able to have their families with them, and they should be social distancing from like their home base in wherever it is, Arizona or Florida. I think logistically it's a lot harder to pull off than it sounds. Like at the surface, when I first heard it, oh yeah, having them all in one place. Well, that's what they do for spring training anyway. But to do it for an entire season, for however many games, we're thinking of doing it, like for games that actually count. Because spring training, those games don't actually count, against their record or anything like that. It's just they're all exhibitions when it all comes down to it.
Right.
So the stakes are so high in the regular season, especially when you're talking about potentially making the playoffs and trying to earn divisional titles and whatnot and wild card spots. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be too hard to pull off. That's my initial feeling. But then it's also going to be too hard to pull off where teams are traveling all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's no easy way to do it. So I would rather us wait however much longer we need to wait to at least have games where there's no fans and it's safer for people to travel. But that could take a really long time. So it's a matter of just setting your priorities in the right place.
Yeah, because you're talking about having, one division in Arizona and these players being quarantined in one hotel, and then they'd be transported by the same bus driver, the same bus every day from the hotel to the ballpark. They'd come back, they'd have to get tested, and then you're talking about sending the next team over back and forth, and then the potential, because you're talking about the Grapefruit League. I know that the Astros, I think their league was something like the Mets, the Nationals, the Cardinals. It's like National League and American League mixed up, and they would be playing their division games, and then at one point they were even thinking that you do interleague play where that's what we're talking about, the serious traveling when teams would have to go from Florida to Arizona to Florida, and that was, I think, just as troubling as having to go from a hotel to the park every day.
Right.
And so, it's a big deal. It's a big mess. I think it's the most probable solution, the one that maybe makes most sense if there's going to be a season. And I think the magic number was, 80 games, 81 games maybe, that they would shorten it to, from 162 games to that many games. And then, we had a couple of college baseball players on earlier this week, and they were saying that every Saturday in college baseball, I didn't know this, but they had double headers, 7-inning double headers. Right. That's what baseball would do. So they're like, man, that would be like an everyday Saturday for us. So not only that you're only playing in the same park, but to play double headers that are 7 innings. I mean, just you're talking about a changing of the game and how managers manage and how pitchers pitch, and so it'd be a very big change for the sport. Obviously, for just 1 year, right? But I'm okay with it as a baseball guy. Anything to bring baseball back, I'm okay with it. But yeah, like you said, even if it means maybe pushing everything back maybe a couple months, we'll have a World Series in November.
Right.
World Series in December with the way
I think at the end of the day, however much time we're losing, it's eating more into the season more and more, and they're gonna have to. If we're gonna have a season this year, unless they just wipe away an entire season, but if we do have a season this year, it's going to have to extend further beyond any time frame we've ever seen for Major League Baseball. So, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I think some Major League Baseball is better than none, but at the same time, it has to be when it's as safe as it possibly can be for everyone to do it. It's not worth it if there's still a chance that players can be contracting the coronavirus, and you got to take your time. We have to keep being patient with all of this.
Definitely. So before we wrap things up, any shout outs you want to give, Brandon, to anybody watching?
I saw Coach Sierra from it's a coach from the basketball coach from Santa Maria, right?
Yeah, well, he's at Donna Idea now.
Oh, he's at Donna now. Oh,
yeah, he's at Idea.
When did he go there?
Maybe about a year, 2 years ago, maybe.
Okay, yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, he was doing a great job at Santa Maria a few years ago. He asked, "What do y'all think of Cowboys getting seedy?" I mean, we were talking to him. I mean, I think it's a home run for them. It's another potential number 1, number 2 weapon for whoever's going to be the quarterback of the Cowboys. I assume Dak's going to sign a contract eventually, and yeah, no, I think it's a home run for sure, Coach. It's great to see you there, and it's cool to see you moving on to a new job. Donna Idea is where you say he was?
Yeah, he's at an Idea now.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Very cool.
Since you left, the ideas have kind of there's a lot of ideas.
A lot more.
A lot more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I remember there was a good amount before I left, and but I knew there was more coming.
Evie actually commented too, and actually the funny thing was that
my camera fell. Sorry, I got it. I got it.
I think it was either yesterday or maybe the day before. I got the Facebook memory that you, Evie, and I were all watching the Vipers championship game.
Yeah. Oh, the game 1.
It was game 1. Yeah, game 1 at the convention center.
Right. That was fun.
Yeah, it said it because I remember Evie went live and she tagged us in it, and
cool.
Yeah, so that was like it showed that it was like 3 years ago today. I was like, oh wow, I was like that was a nice little.
Yeah, well, we just passed my anniversary of leaving. It was very late March that I left, and then it was like April 3rd was my first day at KOB4 here in Albuquerque. And yeah, so I've been seeing a lot of great memories. Like Joel and I, as long as Joel and I worked together, it was about 4 years we worked together. We didn't get to go on out of town trips together very often because if he went, then that meant I had to stay back and vice versa. But we did get to travel 2 weekends in a row to go watch Santa Rosa compete in the regional and then the state semifinals, which was, man, if not the highlight of my Valley time, top 2 or 3. That was an amazing few weeks of covering them for sure. What a team they were. And I caught that you spoke with Leo and AB.
Yeah.
2 awesome dudes, Warrior legends. I had memories come up from me and Joel, like me and Joel being at like the hotel playing piano in the middle of the night to us being at the games, Yeah,
well, the funny thing was that we were in Seguin together covering the regional tournament, and we just so happened to run into you and Joel at the Chili's.
Dude, and Joel and I talked about that last night. I still talk to him a couple of times a week, or if not every other week. And that brings me to I ended up buying you dinner because that was
our World Series bet.
Part of our World Series bet when the Astros beat the Dodgers. And now that we're talking about that, it sounds like you owe me dinner the next time I see you.
Okay.
That wasn't exactly legit. But we'll talk about that later. But man, dude, March and April were always really fun months to cover high school sports because there's always a lot of cool stuff going on. State basketball, state soccer, moving on to softball and baseball. Lots of cool stuff definitely covered in those months, both in Abilene and in the Valley. I miss those times. Those were amazing times in my life for sure.
Yeah, that regional tournament weekend was fun because we covered Santa Rosa and then how they won the regional tournament, and then I remember when we were at state, I think we were even sitting next to each other on the baseline.
Probably,
I think you were telling me that was kind of like your last hoorah there at 5 was the state tournament.
Yeah. At that time, everything was a done deal. Yeah, I already had gotten the job in Albuquerque, and there was a plan in motion for like 3 weeks from then to eventually get him out here, which was a whirlwind, man. Yeah, that was like moving on your own is hard, but then when you factor in your lady, and then our son was only 6 months old at that time, so yeah, it was stressful for sure to go through that. But we're doing well out here. We're liking Albuquerque. It's been a very fun place to work. Love the people I work with. There's even 2 or 3 Channel 5 alums at KOB4. Steve
Wow.
Solis, who was my weekend anchor there. Casey Torres, who's now a reporter here. She was working in production back then. Randy Navarro, who was an editor. I think that's all of us. So there's 4 of us all together. We're at Channel 5 and now working at the same station here, which never happens, by the way. That never happens, that 4 people from one station follow each other to the next one. That's unheard of. So it's been really fun to work with them.
That's crazy. And, you know, speaking of throwbacks, a matter of fact, I remember when you first got to the Valley, and I think one of your first stories was with the White Wings.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
When you came out to Harlingen, and when I remember you had just gotten to the Valley, and we were talking about baseball and how you were from Cali, and we had some guys that were from Cali. So I remember that when you first.
Yeah, good old White Wings, man. How's John doing? You talking to John lately? Yeah.
He works for the Edcouch School District.
Oh, he does. Okay, cool.
Yeah, in the media part. So he's
one of my best buddies is the drama teacher at Couch High School.
Okay.
Yeah. So I still keep in touch with Ed Couch a little bit too.
Yeah, and John helps us out here and there. He's done a couple games for us, but
good. Tell him I said hi, please.
Yeah, definitely. And he actually adopted the whole Zoom thing. He reached out to me and I said, yeah, man, this is how you do it here and there. Yeah. So he started shows for the Ed Couch athletes. And
good. I'm gonna have to track that down. Say hi to him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So John's still there, but yeah, man, a lot of good memories and with the old White Wings back in the day, and then
good times.
Yeah, definitely. So, Billy, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I don't got anything, man. That's all you. Yeah, Brandon, just awesome to see you, man.
Same here, Billy.
Thank you for everything you've done.
Hey, man, you keep up your great work with the Red Raiders. Keep working with Kevin and Joe. I'm sure you're learning a lot from them, and you will continue to do that. Keep in touch, man. You still got my number, so if you need anything, man, just reach out.
For sure.
All right, brother.
So that about wraps up our show. Thanks, Brian, for joining us. You guys be safe up in the ABQ, Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, Billy, of course, you're just down the road from us in La Feria. But we'll be back on later at 3:00. Lifer softball coach Joey Rios.
Awesome.
Us. And then later at 5, Mission Veterans wide receiver AJ Gonzake. So.
And I just want to say hi, and I'll see you guys later to all the RGV fam out there. It was a pleasure working out there for 4 years. Reach out to me on social media or anything else. Hope everyone's staying safe, and doing their part. And hopefully we'll get things back to normal sooner than later.
Definitely. So our first guest of the day, Brandon Ortega. Brandon, thanks for joining us again. And again, you guys stay home and stay safe, and we'll see y'all.